Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Health Made Easy. I'm your host, Dr. Jason Jones, and I'm super excited for our guest today, Dr. Shivani Gupta. And this is a first for us. We're going to be, it's not first for me or her for sure, but maybe for you guys to learn about Ayurvedic medicine and Ayurvedic practitioners and what they do. It's all started in India, and we're going to talk a lot today about the truth about inflammation, where it comes from, what it causes, what are the health problems, how to prevent disease by lowering, inflammation. And I could do my best to introduce our guest, but I think she'll do a much better job than I can. So, Dr. Shivani, introduce yourself. What's your history? What's your background? How'd you get into this? And how did you get into this topic of inflammation?
Sure. So my name is Dr. Shivani Gupta. I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner. I learned about Ayurveda growing up because I'm from Houston, Texas. But every year I'd go to India to see my family, my grandparents, my cousins, everyone. And whenever I was there, I would see that my grandma would give us hinka pani and these different remedies out of her kitchen to heal any problem we had. If we had bloating or our stomach was upset or any sickness, there was an entirely different toolkit that they were reaching into rather than what we were getting at the corner drugstore. And so it was quite an interesting journey growing up in two worlds, India and the US, going back and forth, back and forth. And finally, by the time I got to college, I realized that taking antibiotics constantly through high school, I had been taking Augmentin back to back, was really problematic for my system. And I realized I needed to try a different way, a different path. So I was in India once, disastrously sick. They thought they'd need to hospitalize me. My stomach wasn't cooperating. Everything was coming out all the different ways. And I ended up at a Dr. Gupta's office. And Dr. Gupta said to me, here's 12 drugs for you. You need to take these 12 drugs to fix your problem. And it was the first time where I said, you know what? My body is different from everyone else's body. I have to guard my immune system with my life. Let's have a conversation here. Let's work together. And everyone was so appalled. They're like, that's not how you talk to a doctor. And I was like, well, technically we're both co-managing my health. So I think it's okay to have a conversation. And I said, can you drop that antibiotic down like 10 notches? Let's not explode my gut. You didn't recommend a probiotic. And I don't need 10 different medications for symptoms. Like right outside this door in India is all of Ayurveda and yoga. Like let's look into new toolkits. And that set me on my path, where I said, if I have to guard my immune system for the rest of my life, I'm going to have to pick up some tools. I deep dove into Ayurveda in India. I went to Kerala. I studied under the gurus. I really wanted to I'm such a scientist in my brain. I wanted to go discover, like, what are the keys to health that this system has? And they must be there, but these people must just not be good at sharing them, because here in the West, we're just not aware of this system of medicine yet, nor do we use it. And so what's cool is now that I've studied Ayurveda for more than 20 years, modern day biohackers, modern day wellness is really reaching a lot into Ayurveda's toolkits, pulling the best stuff out and sharing it. So I appreciate seeing that. I do want everyone to give Ayurveda the credit since it came from there. But Ayurveda is a whole system of medicine. I teach detoxification, how to reduce inflammation, gut health, how to ignite the digestive fire, circadian rhythm, how to improve our sleep profoundly for our optimal health. There's so many other aspects, herbology. I ended up doing my Ph.D. in turmeric after studying my master's in Ayurvedic sciences. So I'm just really passionate about us doing all that we can to be healthy. And I just want to thank you for having me on here. I'm a huge fan of chiropractic, acupuncture, all the modalities, because we're each so unique. Yep. And we need to invest in all of the different preventive modalities, especially the ones that resonate best for our bodies.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I appreciate your energy behind it, because we just need more practitioners like you and I who are just on fire for helping people, and showing them that there is a different way, a new way, maybe for them, that they actually can get well, as opposed to just covering up the symptoms, So is that fairly common, I guess, for for Western medicine ideology to be kind of infiltrated already, into India, even though they have a huge history of Ayurveda and other healing arts? Is that fairly common over there?
Yeah, I asked. So when I was little, we would reach into homeopathic medicine first, Ayurvedic medicine second. And then what I realized was when the British occupied India, a lot of things changed. So
Yeah,
English is taught as the first language in all schools across the board. A lot of good happened from it. But one thing that happened is Western allopathic medicine is the primary system of medicine. And now Ayurveda is having a resurgence. So
yeah,
now you're seeing hospitals where both are practiced, or you're seeing completely Ayurveda practices being picked up again by people in India.
gotcha. Okay. So with our topic today on inflammation, like what are the big causes that you see of inflammation in the body? Because obviously inflammation wreaks a lot of havoc, on the body, creates its own sets of problems, but then there are causes for that inflammation, maybe things we do or we don't know that we're exposed to that bring that on. What are the big ones that you see?
I think the number one way that we cause inflammation in our body is actually passive.
Hmm.
There's so many environmental toxins, environmental factors. There's air quality, water quality, food quality, chemical exposure inside of our own homes. You can think of GMOs, radiation, like every external factor on the body is kind of putting the body under assault. And we assume that it's all fine, it's not a big deal, and people have ratings that say it's not a big deal for the body, but I truly believe that it is. And a couple years ago, I wrote a book on pregnancy because when I was ready, actually 12 years ago, because I have a 12-year-old, so 13 years ago, I was really obsessed with how am I going to build a child for this world who's not going to come out fully full of BPAs and toxins and all those
Hmm.
things.
Hmm.
So it really set me on that journey of living that detoxed lifestyle with the cleaning products, the skincare, etc. So number one, I would say is exposure and chemical exposure, environmental toxins. And that one, it is a little problematic because a lot of our exposure is just going to be there. But I do think we are empowered to make a lot of shifts and changes to reduce the toxic burden on the body that the
Yeah,
body has to battle against.
yeah,
My number two would be stress. I think as a society, we're living with mental inflammation constantly. And it takes such a toll on the system. We assume that because the body can tolerate it, it's okay. I can handle a lot of stress until I go insane. So it's people tolerating more stress and kind of planting it in the body. I
yeah,
kind of think of it as like black dots. I once made Post-its and stuck them all over my body. And I was like, imagine all the stress you planted in yourself. You're asking for your body to process it. Your gut is trying to process it, your mind, but you aren't giving yourself the sleep and the detoxification rituals and all the tools you need to clear it. It's just accumulating. And then we have inflammation.
yeah,
Another one, of course, is food. Food nowadays is lacking in the nutrition it once had, lacking in the vitamins and minerals. Our diet habits are very rushed. I'm one of those people too. I eat in the car running from A to B, except my whole day is jammed up.
mhm,
Um, and so really choosing an anti-inflammatory diet consciously can make a huge shift when it comes to inflammation in the body. But we have this mindset nowadays of all the inflammatory foods are the fun foods, and you shouldn't take those fun foods away from me. And so one of my jobs is really to slowly, gently, lovingly pull those out of people's hands
mhm,
and get them to agree to live a more anti-inflammatory lifestyle. I don't seek
yeah,
perfection, but I seek better out of people.
yeah,
Um, and then after that, I would say um, definitely food, definitely mental stress, definitely the environmental toxins. Um, then overall, it's like our lifestyle is one of adding in, but not taking out. So once we've inflamed the system, one day my professor from my PhD explained it this way. He said, look, in our 20s, we have stress, heartbreak, all these things. We never sleep, we pull all-nighters, we do a lot of things that are harmful. They're a burden on the body. And we basically switch on the switches of inflammation. When do you ever stop and detox and turn off those switches? And so I really look at it as the accumulation of all our poor habits through all the early decades that we turn on those switches. Now we have a slow burning fire. We hit our 60s, 70s. Now that's moved into 40s, 50s. And we
mhm,
start to feel the symptoms. They're getting louder and louder and louder all over. And then all of a sudden, if you go to the doctor, you get a diagnosis and you're like, where did that come from? Well, those switches got turned on way earlier. So
yeah.
that's how I look at it.
Yeah, that makes sense because I think about being well is like Michelangelo creating, the sculpture of David. You know what I mean? He wasn't adding new stone to it. He was chipping away. David was already there. He had to take more away than he put in to actually create the sculpture. And I think our bodies are a lot like that. Like you said, like removing, environmental toxins, lowering the stresses that we can control, getting those down, making food swaps, with that. And, one of the things I teach our patients is I don't necessarily want to take anything from you. I just want you to eat so much of the good stuff that you don't want it. You don't want the other things. You know what I mean? There's just no room for it. And after a while, you just kind of edge them out. Not that you can't have them, and then just create space. Create space to have some downtime, structured downtime, and it just makes a huge, huge, huge difference. Now, you've been exposed to both sides, the modern medical side, and then also the other. What are some of the problems that you see with the modern medical interventions for inflammation? Because obviously, NSAIDs and steroids and all these other kinds of things, they have an effect, no doubt. No doubt they have an effect, but they also have unintended, side effects as well. So what are the problems that you see with those things that you end up having to deal with later?
Well, I think people don't realize, or people are starting to realize, that every single thing we do to the body, good or bad, has an effect. And even good things can have side effects that you might not want. But certainly with medications like NSAIDs, there's side effects to our kidneys, there's side effects to our body. Any chemical in the body has to be processed and utilized by the body, anything that's processed at all, really. And so about 5-7 years ago, when I was doing my PhD on turmeric, my goal was, what if we found herbs and spices instead of NSAIDs, but herbs and spices that could reduce inflammation so significantly in the body that we didn't have to take all the other tools that orthopedics or certain modalities, typically it's orthopedics, but that certain professions in Western medicine will offer to us. Like their toolkit right now is, oh, you're in pain, you've got joint pain, here's the NSAID, or here's PRP stem cell, here's a joint replacement, or maybe injections. These are like the tools they reach for. And I would rather say, okay, you're going to reach into your toolkit. That's fine. Can you alongside offer something natural? So, my issue with Western medicine is everyone has their own toolkit and they're just reaching in that one. And what if we were all open enough, like you're seeing in functional medicine, you're seeing functional medicine practitioners come from all the modalities. We're saying, hey, maybe I didn't have all the answers. I'm willing to go study all the alternative modalities out there and pick and choose, cherry pick from them what I consider most scientifically valid. And I am willing to recommend and utilize those with my patients, because I think it's so important nowadays that we educate people on what's happening. We explain that the root cause is inflammation instead of saying, okay, here's a statin for your cholesterol. Okay, here's NSAIDs for your pain. Okay, here's this drug for this thing. Because if you give someone a statin for their cholesterol, you're not solving the problem. You're just saying, let me prevent your future heart attack. But did you ever say, hey, what are you eating? Are you sleeping? There's a lot of issues here and you are on a train wreck. Can I please get you off the train?
Yeah. 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 I think it all kind of comes down to the ultimate question of why. Why is this happening to you? It's like, why is your cholesterol 600? And in digging into those other factors and seeing, because we've all known those people that, they go to the doctor and they get this, they're like, hey, we're going to put you on a statin. And they're like, I'm not doing it. I'm going to walk, I'm going to change my diet. They go back in 3 to 6 months and they're like, everything's come down. And then they came off their blood pressure medication and all these other kinds of things, all of which they could have done, by themselves, without their doctor. But they just needed that extra little push, in there. Now, you mentioned something I was actually going to ask you about anyway, which was, you mentioned functional medicine, which is extremely popular right now, definitely gaining a lot of notoriety and all of that. What's the difference in sort of traditional functional medicine and Ayurvedic medicine?
It's a good question. So I am a huge fan of functional medicine because I live in both worlds. My entire family in South Florida is physicians and surgeons. And I am this off the wall Ayurvedic practitioner who thinks turmeric can heal everything in life and who will tell you to do oil massages to yourself and dry brush and tongue scrape and oil pulling. Like, I teach a whole different toolkit than anyone who's around me. And I have to somehow stay married and compromise in all the things that I think and do. So it's an interesting journey. So functional medicine to me is the opportunity for any profession, MD, DO, chiropractic, nurse practitioners, so many different modalities that are professional systems that have studied can go further and do a deep dive into functional medicine. So functional medicine is these existing modality practitioners like you reaching into an entirely new toolkit of complementary and alternative medicine modalities such as acupuncture, Ayurveda, the Ayurvedic, homeopathic, even the energy medicine, massage, all the areas, and really looking at as much science as we have. We're building the science as we go. It's not like the alternative modalities have as much published science on us, but we're doing it. I'm doing it. And going in and saying, okay, if gut health is the issue, what are the stool tests we need? What are the supplements we need? It's kind of an exploding market right now. And so what I look at it as is, let's say you go to a functional medicine practitioner and you can understand through your blood work and deeper testing what the spectrum of issues are. Okay, great. They're going to, again, reach into their more scientifically validated toolkits and say, okay, well, obviously you need vitamin A, D, calcium, you're deficient in omegas, like you're deficient, here you go. But I still see that if you want to complete the whole pie, complete the circle in terms of health, you still need Ayurvedic medicine because the person must put lifestyle practices in place if they're going to win at holding the benefits. So we must fix sleep, we must fix inflammation, we must fix gut health. So that's what I've been telling people is, look, I still want you to go get that data and I still want you to fix it. I don't feel responsible if I don't guide you to go do that half of the pie. But then the rest of the pie, I still want you to understand how to put lifestyle in place, a rhythm in place so that you live optimally every day. So we prevent these issues from happening again.
Yeah, gotcha. So what would be your Ayurvedic rhythm or steps, general steps, because everybody's going to be a little bit different, for fighting inflammation for somebody? Let's say somebody is chronically inflamed, they're systemically inflamed. What would be the Ayurvedic sort of hierarchy and steps to get them where they need to go?
Number one, we detox. 100%. We're big fans of detoxification. In Ayurveda, we have something called panchakarma. Panchakarma is like a profound 21-day detox that's super intense. I've done it in India. It's like they're sticking oil everywhere and they're making you eat ghee and everything will come out of you that's ever been in you from all directions, and neti pot and all that. Here in the West, in America, I don't see people as willing to do all the gross things. So I make them do a much more reasonable detox. I built something called like a 30-day 6-step program. And so I'll have them first do a detox at the level that they're ready for. Sometimes people come in so tired and depleted, they actually need to do a whole pile of self-care, get to whole before you ask them to take anything out.
Yeah.
Or I'll go in there and say, okay, let's give up some inflammatory foods and let's put really great Ayurvedic self-care rituals in place that detox the body gently, such as tongue scraping, such as oil pulling, such as dry brushing. We have a lot of different ones. I have people take Epsom salt baths and different things. So I really want people to put Ayurvedic, we call it Dinacharya, the daily self-care practices, with a detox in place. And that's my step one. Like, let's get you cleaned out. Because if you're super inflamed, the body is not in a point where it can be healing to itself anyway. So we have to get that part in line. Once we've done that, then we can start the teaching. So I teach sleep optimization. If we aren't sleeping from 10 to 2, that's the most ideal time to sleep for the body to reduce inflammation and clear out all the lymphatic pathways. So if there's a traffic jam in the body from inflammation, we've got to get that out of the way. But if we're not going to fix the root causes of it, we're just going to cause it right back. So first detox, then I fix sleep, then I fix gut. So Ayurveda has been obsessed with gut health for over 5,000 years. we call the digestive fire Agni. We call it a digestive fire. So it's meant to be honored and respected and revered all day long. Like you're supposed to have a rhythm with your gut and you're supposed to have a rhythm with your sleep. Then I asked them to build a rhythm with self-care and supplements. And then once we've got that all practiced and they've got that rhythm down, then I kind of release them into the world and say, okay, now you get to maintain it. And most people say, I feel like I have a Shivani on my shoulder because I constantly hear your voice say to me, relax, take a break, do some self-care, have some tea. So I try to show people that I know we are living this high impact, high success, big goals driven lifestyle, many of us, but it doesn't have to be at the expense of burning our bodies and destroying our bodies.
Beautiful. So just to recap that, detox is number one. And some people, they're going to need to be healthy first. You got to get them healthier first before they can actually do it. Sleep optimization, fix the gut next. And then they get the little Shivani on the shoulder. And really, like to me, when you said that, it's like when you make somebody healthier, their awareness goes up. Like they're sort of, you know, blocked out by all these problems and their body's so focused on just trying to, you know, manage all these things or fix all these things. It doesn't have the resources to be able to do it. Then you come along and then they start to level up, you know, if you will. And then their head gets clear and then their awareness goes up and they're just like, oh, now, you know, now I can see the things that I couldn't see before. They were there the whole time, but now they can actually see them. They actually bring a tremendous amount of awareness for people, and that's awesome. I love that. Yeah, really, really good. So turmeric, it's been the sweetheart of the natural health space for a lot of years now. But I know there is so much more to it than just ordering organic turmeric powder and sprinkling it on your food. I know there are parts of it that there are things you have to do to get absorption to be the best, and sourcing and all these other kinds of things. Educate us on not only what is it, you know, but how do we use it? How can we make it more effective? And how often, you know, should we be using it?
Sure. So turmeric's my favorite topic. I studied it for years. I'm the biggest nerd on turmeric you've ever met. And it took me years of studying it to finally get to understanding why and how. So turmeric is a plant. It's a rhizome. It's the sister plant to ginger, similar to ginger in many ways for the body. Mm-hmm. Turmeric is an anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. It's also an immune modulator because it's an antiviral, antibacterial, and an antifungal. So a lot of times when people come to me with problems, I'm like, you can just take turmeric for that. Oh, you need an immune system that works, take turmeric. Oh, you feel like you're aging too fast, take turmeric. Oh, you're inflamed, all of you, which we are, take your turmeric. What's interesting to me is as society, because it's a superfood, so many people are purchasing it and they're juicing it. So a lot of people are like, I juice my turmeric and I drink it every day. And I'm like, okay, do you have black pepper or a healthy fat in there? That increases the absorption. Many of them don't. I ask a lot of them and they're like, well, I sprinkle it on my chicken when I eat my chicken. I'm like, that's not enough. So out of the entire turmeric plant, only 3% is the curcuminoids. Out of the 3 curcuminoids, only 1 curcumin is the most effective at reducing inflammation. And we must add black pepper or a healthy fat to increase that absorption. And so when I read that and I understood it, I was like, okay, well, there's great turmeric supplements. And the problem with the supplement sector is over 70% of the supplements that are carried at a big box retailer. We had the Wall Street Journal publish an article a long time ago that said, or in the last 10 years, that said 70% of them are not giving you the potency of the active ingredient that they say on the label. And so that really concerned me because I am a supplement junkie. I love being healthy. Like I mentioned, I do have to guard my immune system. Not anymore, but I used to. So I have to trust that if I buy a supplement, that it's going to be of the quality that it says on the bottle. So I'm relying on it. And so after I did my Ph.D., I thought, okay, let's see if I can actually build a supplement that I can trust. But also let's take it a step further. You know, Western medicine is giving us lots of solutions. What if they had a natural tool that they could trust and they could lean on instead of giving us all the NSAIDs? Because I can't take NSAIDs. I've had many different injuries over time where If I take NSAIDs 24/7 for a week, all of a sudden I can't eat after that. My stomach hurts badly. I'm very sensitive to medications because I avoid them. And so I can't take an opioid. Like I took an opioid and it made me faint. So I'm one of those people who I was like, well, I need a solution for me when I hurt myself. And because I know inflammation is the root cause of most diseases, I want to take a turmeric I can trust. And so that's why I built Fusionary 7 years ago. And I sourced my curcumin. It's medical grade. My factory thought I was insane. They were like, no one sources an ingredient this expensive. You're a supplement company. Like, what are you doing? And I said, well, humor me. I'm just trying to prove my point because I think that we can really win at this. I think if we created a tool, people would use it. And 7 years ago, we embarked on this journey. Now hundreds of doctors recommend it to their patients every day, which is really exciting to me. Now we're in clinical trials for knee osteoarthritis. So I'm get to be part of creating the science behind proving why Ayurvedic herbs are so effective in the body. So that's kind of my summary on turmeric. I think it's so potent and so good for us, but we have to use it the right way. If you're going to use the powder, add black pepper or healthy fat, but know that you're taking it for flavor, maybe a tiny bit of benefit, but nothing in the hemisphere of taking a full 500 milligrams twice a day at a 98% grade potency that drives the result for any inflammation that you know you have in the body.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, because I think, and then you touched on the only that small part of the plant has like the really high potency. And then what most people don't know is that 70% you talked about is they'll take any part of the turmeric plant and they can say it's turmeric because it comes from the turmeric plant, and they don't necessarily and they get it from anywhere they want, in the world because it was grown over here. So it's turmeric, so we can call it that. There's a lot of leeway in what they can do. So when you source, you don't have to give up like your sourcing, but I do know that there are hot spots in the world where the best turmeric comes from. And I can't remember, I know I've read this somewhere. I cannot remember where in the world they are. But what are those hot spots? Like what is somebody looking for? Like, hey, this was sourced in this place.
Sure. I'm always looking. Like I'm an herbal junkie. I want to make new formulas with ashwagandha. I have turmeric gold, my main formula, but inflammation relief is my second best. I wouldn't say second best, equally best. But it has turmeric, ginger, boswellia, all the herbs to address inflammation. So for me, I'm obsessed with knowing where I can get better and better. India happens to be the largest producer of turmeric in the world. So India is like where most of it all comes from. Can there be other countries where it's better? Maybe. I've heard different people in the islands are trying to grow things off the coast of Fiji and stuff. So I'm always talking to them and I'm like, show me the extraction paperwork. I want to see, can you get it more potent than we can? But out of South India is where we're seeing the best curcumin come from. And the supplier I work with has all the international standards in place. For me, because I built a solution for medicine, I needed it to be very safe, very pure, and very effective. I couldn't have any wiggle room on that. So I invest a lot in my core ingredient, but at least I know that it's delivering the result that I want.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you're blending it with some of those other, additional anti-inflammatory like the boswellia and those kinds of things. That's great. So let's talk about that for a second. So you develop fusionary formulas. Can you give us an idea of the different types of formulas that you have? Obviously, you have a turmeric product. You probably have multiple ones. That's great. I'd love to talk about that. Maybe some of the other things that you offer as well.
Sure. So turmeric gold is like our flagship. That one I built with 500 milligrams of curcumin, 4 milligrams black pepper extract, and 50 milligrams of turmeric added back in, just to honor the fact that even non-curcuminoid turmeric can have benefits, and it can have a synergistic whole plant effect when added to the extract. So that's the one I tell people we can take every day as our preventive. I take it as my daily preventive. Then when people have known inflammation in the body, I made something called inflammation relief. That's the one most of my doctors recommend because the patient's coming with something-itis going on in the body. And so they need a solution that'll directly approach it. That one has boswellia, guduchi, amla, dried ginger. And so Ayurvedic medicine very much believes in herbs working in a symphony together. So the main herb does the job, second herb does the job, third one helps it go where it needs to go, fourth one increases absorption, fifth one mitigates the negative effects of even putting herbs into the body outside of regular food. So there's a lot of intelligence to the herbs when put in the right proportions. So those are our two main ones. Our third most popular one is Deep Sleep Formula. It's a liquid dropper bottle, so sublingual sleep drops that people can use to get as much sleep as they need. So if you want 8 hours of sleep, you take enough for 8. If you want 6, or if you wake up in the middle of the night, which just happens to me sometimes, I'll take it then just to get the complete night's sleep. And that's a natural, very healthy, very good for you formula, non-habit forming formula. Then I have a lot of teas that I've designed because I wanted to see, could you take loose tea herbs and formulate them in such a potency that they could drive a result in the body, kind of taking it out of the capsule and back into the plant form. And so I made a deep sleep tea that a lot of practitioners and a lot of people are using because it relaxes the mind and relaxes the digestive system for a better night's sleep. So it has ashwagandha, it has brahmi, it has osmanthus, and it's like a beautiful floral blend that I had to put on top to hide the potentness of those herbs that are in that tea. So it's always a game to me to understand how can I deliver a result but not make it gross, because that's a balance if you want people to use the things. And then I made a few other formulas, like a swelling and bruising relief. So if patients are getting a procedure or something, then it's arnica bromelain, natural solutions for that swelling and bruising. And I made a hormone rebalance tea for menopause because menopause is a big issue. I get a lot of complaints from the women. And so it has the effect of cooling night sweats and cooling those hot flashes.
Okay. Yeah. I'd like to double click on your sleep formula because that, when, we all know, well, not we all know, you and I know that poor sleep it drives all-cause mortality. Every single terrible health problem you could ever think of, lack of sleep will contribute to that. And certainly inflammation as well, because you're missing out, like you said, on that 10 to 2 range where the body can heal and repair, but the body's healing and repairing through all sleep. And different organs and glands are healing at different times and all of that. So so tell me a little bit about the formula, what's in there, and how does it help not only get the right amount of sleep, but get you into the levels that you need to get to.
Sure. So it has GABA, L-DOPA, magnesium, 1 milligram melatonin. It has mucuna pruriens, which is an Ayurvedic ingredient. It has saw palmetto, which is an Ayurvedic ingredient. And it has a little bit of like a honey so that we can fix the taste of all of that. So basically what it does is if you put the drops under your tongue, it's 2 to 3 drops per hour of sleep desired. And so when I take it, for example, I'll take it if I've had 2 nights of bad sleep, I need that third night to be back on track. And I'm like, just take the deep sleep. You have it on your nightstand. So I'll take it, and I'll take the 3 drops. I've taken it for years now, 3 drops per hour. What it'll do, it knocks you out. So within 30 to 45 minutes, you're just out. You're going to get the first entire part of the night sleep perfect, I would say. The rest of it, you get it pretty close to perfect. When you go to wake up, you wake up rested. You wake up happy, like as if you got your best night's sleep. Now, if I do this in the middle of the night, I've done this a few times where I'll take it at 2 a.m. I'll pop awake, something is on my mind. Let's say I have a speech the next day or something, and I'm still trying to formulate what I'm going to talk about. I'll take a little too much sometimes. Like I'll forget that it needs 30 to 45 minutes to take effect. Then yes, I'll wake up a bit groggy because it's like, it's still in my system, but usually within 10, 15 minutes, I can kind of shake that off and move on.
Gotcha.
That's how it works.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So, Dr. Shivani, thank you so much for coming on today. This has been incredible. And I'm so glad that we finally connected. You guys have no idea the amount of times we tried to make this happen, and we finally got it done. And I can't wait to post this video up and to share this podcast with the world, and you too, because I know a lot of people who listen to our podcast maybe have never heard of you before. So what's the best place for people to find you, find out about your work, and just connect with you online, social media?
Sure. My 2 websites are shivanigupta.com, Shivani Gupta, which is a popular name now. And then Fusionary Formulas, Fusionary formulas.com. And then both handles are on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook. I have a ton of videos on YouTube that are educational, so you can definitely find me there. And then we made a special code for you, Jones Chiropractic, that people can use on Fusionary Formulas to get 15% off their orders.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you guys will go into the notes below this episode, also on the show notes page on the website, it will be there. There will be a link for it. You can go straight through, check all of those products out. I'm definitely getting the sleep. I'm definitely getting the turmeric. I want to run those for a while and see how it goes. And I would recommend all of you guys too. When you start something new like that, really think in terms of like 3 to 6 months of taking something at a minimum to begin to really see the effects that it's going to have as you go and as you're making lifestyle changes and do that. So, Dr. Shivani, thank you so much. Thank you again just for being who you are, for being diligent over these last 20 years in the study and the deep dive to just make it right when you do things. You know what I mean? We just need more people like you out there doing that, and it's just been an honor to be on here with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Same with you. Thank you for having me.
You got it.